بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي.
This is a thinker who helps us understand why our lives and relationships are full of so much confusion and pain. He tells us why life is hard and how to cope. His own life incurred a lot of anxieties. Sigmund Freud was born to a middle-class Jewish family in 1856. His professional life was not an immediate success. As a medical student, he dissected hundreds of eels in an unsuccessful attempt to locate their reproductive organs. He promoted cocaine as a medical drug, but it turned out to be a dangerous and addictive idea. A few years later, he founded the discipline that would ultimately make his name, a new psychological medicine he called Psychoanalysis. The landmark study was his 1900 book, The Interpretation of Dreams. Many others followed. Despite his success, he was often unhappy. During some particularly strenuous research, he recorded, "The chief patient I am preoccupied with is myself." He was convinced he would die between 61 and 62 and had great phobias about those numbers, although he actually died much later, at the age of 83. Perhaps because of his frustrations, Freud achieved a series of deep insights into the sources of human unhappiness. He proposed that we are all driven by the pleasure principle.
By the 1890s, Sigmund Freud was successful enough with his peculiar talking treatment to open new offices in a fashionable district of Vienna. The address was Bergasse 19, and Freud would live and work here for 47 years. On October 23, 1896, Sigmund Freud's father, Jacob, died. Overcome with painful and confusing feelings, Freud, 40 years old, decided to analyze himself.
What Freud did was what no other human being had ever accomplished. The self-analysis was a monumental achievement, and Freud was the first person to be able to lift his own defenses, overcome his own resistance, and interpret his own unconscious.
Freud had recently discovered what he called the royal road to the unconscious, dreams. And he had developed an odd but intriguing new method for exploring that road, free association, paying attention to anything that came to mind without any censorship. Every night after his patients, Freud put himself on the couch and free associated around his dreams. Freud certainly had plenty of neuroses to dissect. Among other things, he had a travel phobia. He longed to visit Rome and once went within 50 miles of the city, then turned around and went home. He also had a tendency to faint in the presence of talented male friends, and he had a severe addiction to cigars.
At first, for about a year, the process of self-analysis made his symptoms worse because he was really looking into what he called the dung heap, which meant all of the disgraceful or shameful or anxiety.
Hello. In this lecture, we will talk about psychoanalysis and we will discuss Sigmund Freud's work on human behavior. Psychoanalysis is a type of therapy that aims to release repressed emotions and memories that can lead the client to catharsis or healing. The ultimate goal is to bring the unconscious or subconscious level up to a conscious level, and this goal is accomplished through talking to the clients about their life, asking big questions about the events, about their life experiences, and gradually diving into the underlying complexities at the unconscious level. And then the therapist actually try to bring those complexities on the conscious level so that he or she can address those problems. Um, Let me now introduce Sigmund Freud. He is known as the founder of psychoanalysis. His contributions were influential but met with controversies as well. You will read about his life in the textbook. Also, one of you have presented his life and contribution in the class. You can also go through those presentation scripts. Here I am more focused on his work. I will begin with what triggered Freud's interest in psychoanalysis. One of his colleagues was treating a patient who was suffering from physical symptoms with no apparent physical causes. He found that when he tried to help the patient recovering repressed memories regarding her traumatic experience, the symptoms were declining. This case was a turning point in Freud's life, and he started working on unconsciousness. Freud gave us three levels of awareness: unconscious, conscious, and preconscious. Unconscious holds repressed memories and emotions and our instinctual drives. Conscious level holds everything you are aware of at any given moment, including your thoughts, perceptions, feelings, and memories, means your current thought and your feelings. Preconscious, sometimes also called as subconscious, it is the level from where things can easily brought into a conscious self. This is the home of everything we can recall or retrieve from our memory. Freud believed that there are unlearned biological instincts, specifically related to the sexual or aggressive nature of human being, and that can occur early in life, means in childhood, and these instincts influence a person's thinking and feeling and behavior. His idea of unconsciousness is very interesting. He thinks thoughts, memories, and desires exist below conscious level, and they exert a pressure to influence our behavior. For example, unconsciousness may be expressed in dreams, or a slip of a tongue may be seen as unconscious thought. Psychoanalytical theory attempts to explain personality mental disorders and motivations in terms of unconscious determinants of the behavior. Sigmund Freud provides three elements or three components of his model of mind and personality. These components are also known as metaphorical parts of the mind as conceived by Freud. First component or first element of human personality or the human mind is id. It is composed of the basic biological drives such as hunger, thirst, and sexual impulses, your survival needs. You can see it is more about instinct. Two biological instincts that make up the id according to Freud are eros, that is the instinct to survive and that drive us to survive, And the second one is quite contrary to Eros, and that is Thanatos, is the death instinct that drives us to be destructive, aggressive, and drive us to show a violent behavior. Freud introduces player principle in connection with it. The player principle of human personality demands immediate gratification. Our conscious psychic energy that we devote to satisfy our basic urge towards survival, aggression, and reproduction, this is all it. For example, infants are governed primarily by the id. They want their own needs to be fulfilled immediately, including psychosexual needs, oral pleasure, and hunger. And you see, the infants go on demanding until their desire is not satisfied. So this principle Freud used as player principle to explain it. Second is superego. The superego contains morality and higher principles and encourage us to act in socially and morally acceptable ways. Values, morals, religious beliefs, ideals of parents and society, norms, culture, belief practices, these are all driven by superego. So you can say that contrary to the id's player principle, superego is about moral principles. Superego develops around age 4, a general idea. Superego is a strict moral judge, especially of impulses that the parents or culture would condemn. In early childhood, parents and the society teach what to control and foster superego. You can see the visible conflict here between it and superego. It demands, I want it right now. And superego says, it is not right. Just compare the player seeking an immediate gratification with social, cultural norms, moral values, and the social cultural pressure that restrict us to follow our demands. And in this way, superego may condemn certain ways to seek gratification. Hence, there is a conflict between it, internal force, and superego, external force, that can create anxiety and disturb human mind and distort personality in several ways. Here Freud discusses about the third important component of his model of mind, that is ego. The ego acts as both a channel for and check on the id, working to meet the id's needs in a socially appropriate way. It is tied to reality. So now you see a difference. It was concerned about player seeking, and superego was concerned about high moral principles, whereas ego is more related to reality principle. Ego tries to make rational choices and to cope with the reality of daily life, partly by keeping the id's unconscious lust and the superego's guilt under control. Ego encourages id to seek gratification through realistic and socially acceptable means. Ego creates defense mechanisms that you will learn in another lecture. So these defense mechanisms actually distort id's impulses into socially acceptable forms. As children grow older, their egos develop. They assert themselves but also accommodate external world demands. In this way, if parenting and teaching is successful in developing a strong ego, the children will grow into an emotionally healthy person. For example, sexual desires may be wild and can drive a person into aggressive abuse. And sex education, along with moral education according to the biological age of the children, can help them to manage their behavior. Freud stressed that the first 5 years of life are crucial to the formation of adult personality. The age must be controlled in order to satisfy social demands. This sets up a conflict between frustrated wishes and social norms. The ego and superego develop in order to exercise this control and direct the need for gratification into socially acceptable channel. Gratification centers of different areas of the body at different stages of growth, making the conflict at each stage psychosexual. We will read more about these gratification centers later in another lecture while discussing Freud's stages of psychosexual development. The images displayed here offers a context of the iceberg model of our mind, according to Freud, showing the realm of the unconscious impulses and drives, and a visual presentation of how ego plays its role in meeting the reality principle. You can see that superego and id resides deep in conscious level, so you can imagine the force and the influence of these two elements. That is the reason Freud emphasizes bringing unconscious thoughts to a conscious level through psychoanalytical therapies. It will help to understand the underlying thoughts driving a specific behavior or causing a personality disorder. In second image, you see the role of id, superego and ego in connecting external realities and instincts. So now you will try to read the relevant text in your chapter number 5 of the book, that is about psychodynamic approach. In our next lecture, we will study about psychosexual stages that the Freud suggested and the defense mechanism. Thank you very much. Please join on Microsoft Team and post your questions there, and we will meet on Monday. Thank you.